You are right up my street.
Oh, you can't make me choose.
Igo by Toyota sponsors T4.
Fuck me, Lee Ryan's 13.
I remember we couldn't remember the word for table.
This is You're Welcome America, the podcast that explains what the bloody hell Brits are banging on about.
In every episode, we translate British pop culture for America
And American pop culture for Britain.
You're welcome.
I am Ben.
I am Fraser.
Fraser like Razor, and it's 2022.
Woo, woo, woo! We're back.
We are back. Happy New Year, everyone.
And what a new year it's been so far.
How you feeling over there? How you doing?
I'm good. I did catch COVID over the New Year's break.
You're just another statistic.
I am,
Just another number over there.
Yeah, so I did get that. That was fun. But I'm fine, and everything's great, and science works, so that's the end of that one.
Yeah.
But I did get trapped inside my own apartment for quite a few days in a row, and yeah.
And strangely, I did not catch it off you.
Yeah, there you go. You're immune. Well,
Well, you have said What did you say about me actually?
I said you've made a deal with the devil to spread it but not have it. So you're just like a vessel for it, but you'll never have it yourself.
Lovely. I have had it though. Remember you gave it to me last time? Anyway. So normally on the podcast we do, I'm going to do a refresher for a new year. We take a British pop culture topic. We talk about it, work out the US equivalent. Then we take a US pop culture topic. We discuss it, dissect it, work out the UK equivalent. Because it is a new year, we're going to start off this new year strong.
We previously have just come off doing a Victoria Beckham documentary special. So if anything, we're really in kind of like just a quick Spice Girls documentary season is what we're in at the moment.
Just before we get back to our regular programming, so you will have seen already by the name of this episode, we're going to be doing Geri Halliwell's documentary by Molly Dineen. What was it called? Just Geri. We will get into
We'll talk about that font.
Woo! What year is this, by the way?
1999.
Great year.
And I said, my first note is they've got a lot of nerve captioning this YouTube video HD. I'd say we're riddled with visual and sound issues in this documentary. There's a buzz that plays for an hour and a half in your ear while you're watching it.
Fraser is, of course, saying, not of course, but just letting you know, if you do want to watch this documentary, it is on YouTube.
Oh, you have to watch it.
So good. Before we get into it, though,
Yeah.
shall we do some feedback? As ever, if you want to get in touch with us, do just drop on down to our Instagram. You're welcome, America. I started saying that very confidently.
That is correct. And our Twitter is You're Welcome USA, or you can email us on yourwelcomeamericapodcast@gmail.com. That's You're Welcome, the letters UR, not YOUR.
Mm-hmm. And you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
We'd love that. So, straight hot off the back of the 2007-2021 extravaganza that was Victoria Beckham coming to America, we have a few comments. So yeah, Ben O'Neill 2 on our Instagram said, "Don't know what my fave part is. The DMV retouching, hitting an inflatable VB with a belt and shouting, 'Belt up!' The drunk dolphin woman?" I mean, he's right.
Oh, I almost couldn't remember how to do a dolphin noise then.
That was major. There you go. So thank you for that. Also, we did mention your nemesis last episode, which was Bolly Bollerson.
Yeah, I have not, due to my COVID problem that I had, I didn't manage to fly back to the UK to burn it to the ground. So what's going on with it?
So Camille said, so Bolly Bollerson had a fair queue outside on Saturday night. That was 2 weeks ago. I mean, that was really Omicron Central in the UK 2 weeks ago.
Oh, what a horrible place to catch it as well. Imagine if you had to trace it back to Bolly Bollerson.
Or imagine getting the email from Bolly Bollerson saying, "Hey, ball fans, if you drop by the pit on Saturday night, afraid to say 39 of our guests have reported they've got COVID."
Oh, they call them ballers. Of course they do. That branding is just disgusting.
I mean, we are obviously going to go the next time the two of us are in London,
of course.
Which is never. And we're going to record an episode from one of the pits.
Yeah, it's going to be from inside of Bolly Bollerson.
The sound issues are going to be phenomenal.
More than normal.
Anything going on within the DMs, babes?
So we have a wild back-to-back DMs from Niall in London. He's given us some feedback on the Geri app, which feels very apropos of this episode that we're about to do. So he says, just quick shout out on the Geri app. And it's just really a list of things. Geri and her tribute song to George Michael, Angel in Chains, Geri and Robbie Williams, Geri and Chris Evans with 3 scissor emojis, Geri and Sex and the City cameo,
Samantha Jones!
Geri and her comeback single Half of Me, and Geri and her iconic Insta post, Hello, I'm on the train. So it's just really just a list of things about Geri. I think he's saying things that we forgot to talk about, but maybe we'll cover them on this episode. And then just a separate DM from him that just says, Richard Rogers, Millennium Dome architect, dies at 88. Just a link to a BBC News article on December the 18th, which is, important.
Because you know what? Richard Rogers in 1999, oh God, he was busy.
Yeah, he had a lot on his plate.
He was defending those plans a go-go. Also, separate note, shout out to Crystal in the UK. She got in touch today. She's watching Entrapment in the UK. And actually, let me just read that message. It wasn't direct feedback, but just think about the year 1999 and the Millennium Bug and many of our favorite things. Crystal/Colin said, I think if you make a drinking game using Y2K/Millennium Bug references plus any lasers or laser-related moments, you've got a fun night ahead. Ooh. So that's just a shout out to the movie Entrapment from the year 1999 with Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
We'll see a different James Bond suddenly just behind a door in this documentary at some point.
Oh my God, this is going to be a James Bond heavy episode, actually.
Okay. Before we get into this documentary, I just have to tell you about something really, really small that happened to me yesterday.
Okay.
I went for a hike in Griffith Park, and I will say Griffith Park is normally the more kind of sedate hiking place in LA rather than Runyon. There was a lot of people displaying a lot of Runyon behavior in Griffith Park yesterday, which I was not happy about. Lots of Insta posts being made and people being really annoying. But I did walk past, I went to the observatory as part of my kind of walk, and I saw the saddest thing. It was like a grubby, like a person in a grubby Cookie Monster costume, like trying to get money like you would on Hollywood Boulevard, but all the way up at Griffith Park Observatory. And like, it was this grubby Cookie Monster and he had like a mask on. Like, he'd made a big mask to put over the Cookie Monster face. It made me feel so sad. I just really had to say that. I had to share it with someone. It's really weighing on my brain.
I thought, first of all, I thought this was going to be connected to Geri somehow.
Absolutely not.
Secondly, I thought there was going to be something lovely and uplifting to start the episode with.
No, much like this episode, it started off sounding like something good and it just became incredibly sad and childlike.
So, we are talking about the Geri Halliwell documentary, Geri, a film by Molly Dineen. First up, now, as we said, watch along on YouTube, the font.
Yeah. And I will say, just real quick, is when we did the Victoria Beckham episode, as we started it, I remember describing it as wafer thin. This is, if that was wafer thin ham, this is a healthy slice of gammon. thick gammon.
This is like that giant roast ham you have on Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
And you forget because you had the turkey and someone's like, we've also got the roast ham. Oh no.
I'm too full. Yeah, so we've got some real gammon to get through in this one. But yeah, you're right, this font.
The pink font.
It feels like it was the documentarian's choice in trying to do like a Geri style. It felt like an off-brand Geri, like an unauthorized biography would have had that font on it. Felt like she was going for Geri, but it didn't work.
What's the deodorant? Is it Secret?
Secret in America, Sure in the UK.
So Secret in America, I think, has a similar font.
Yeah, it does.
Or like a Secret commercial from 1999 would look like that font. How's this opening?
Well, it opens on some frenzied news footage, multiple news outlets, BBC News, ITN News, Channel 4 News, I think. Sky News, yes, of course. And a lot of kind of, not to get into TV rights, but a lot of fair usage footage at the beginning of this one. And
I'm going to give a shout out to someone reading aloud. What's happened to Geri? She's gone missing from the spice rack.
Yeah. Yeah, so the crux of this is that Geri's gone missing. Not that she's left the Spice Girls, she's gone missing.
Well, did you ever, on my Spice Girls homemade VHS where I recorded Spice Girls related things off the TV, I did have that national lottery.
Oh yeah, get well soon, Geri.
Yeah, and Carol Smith was like, "Hey, isn't there one of you missing?" And Melby's like, "Yeah, Geri's sick. Get well soon, Geri." So
where is she?
Where are we? What's going on? So we then cut to Geri's obviously bought herself a camcorder, and she has it positioned directly facing her, and she says, "Hi, it's Geri. It's the 29th of May, and yesterday I left the Spice Girls permanently." So,
and where are we?
we're in, oh my God, we are in the most gorgeous, glamorous hotel room in Paris. I just can't stop thinking about.
Oh no, je ne regrette rien. I'm surprised she did not sing that at some point in this hotel room in Paris.
She also says that today is Mel B's birthday, ironically.
Yeah. She's 25 in this.
That's what I wrote.
She's 25.
So I want to give us some more context as well. Okay, so just to really center ourselves. So the Spice Girls tour was going on at this stage. Saw them on either April 4th or 5th, 1998.
Oh, wow, you looked up the date.
At the SECC Concert Hall 4. That's what I found in the Wikipedia. Anyway, so it's the 29th of May, 1998. And she left on the 28th of May, 1998. So they had gigs in Oslo on both of those dates.
Oh, shit.
So I don't know if she did. I think. So I remember. Oh my God, so many things to say. Richard E. Grant, when he was introducing them at the Return of the Spice Girls press conference, which I famously attended, he said that Geri did a bunker in Oslo, i.e. she left in Oslo. Or did she? Anyway.
Did a bunker.
So I don't know if she did either of those gigs in Oslo or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's wild. I don't think she did.
And I found a video of a YouTube of them in Oslo, and they're just performing, the four of them, but they haven't like changed their blocking.
There's
or
just
their
like
spacing.
a hole in there.
There's just a space.
Oh God. Worth noting, she's got those tiny little butterfly clips in her hair when she's talking about Mel B's birthday. Do you remember the little ones? Like they're the little mini ones that girls would. You do like if you were really crazy, you'd do your hair up, and there'd be all those little butterfly clips like around the bit that's up, or maybe some twists with individual tiny little butterfly clips in it. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous,
Really good,
really stunning.
Oh my God, this is. I mean,
there's a lot to
there's
say.
Already a lot. Also, as intense and I don't want to say laughable, and I don't want to say insane. But as extreme as this documentary gets, pretty cool that she decided to do this.
Yeah.
It's also the most Geri thing of all time.
Completely.
I'm going to film myself in the most intense situation ever to put out into the world.
Yeah.
But also, I'm so glad she did.
Well, she's a very early model of almost like an influencer type, like someone who actively wants to document like every part of their life. It's pretty, I know there's people came before her that did it, but it's slightly narcissistic, but also very good for us.
Oh, so good for us. Shall we get to that press conference?
Yeah, I actually can't remember why I wrote this note. I just said, this man's eyebrows at the press conference. I think there was one member of the press, whose eyebrows were so long that they were as long as his hair.
Oh.
Like, truly, like, flapping in the breeze, his eyebrows were that long.
That's not Geri's solicitor?
No, I think it was a member of the press corps.
Also, the phrase solicitor, much like in the UK, you would refer to as a therapist as a counselor.
Yeah.
Referring to a lawyer as a solicitor. Love that.
Which, ironically, here you'd call them counsel. The world goes round, doesn't it?
What's it like?
So this is the point where the documentarian, when Molly's voiceover, she kind of basically says that Geri calls her in at this point to take over filming, right?
Yes. So I've just written my next stage of notes. I've written Paris, Molly steps in.
Yeah, I've written in all caps, tax exile in Paris.
Yes.
What is happening with this tax exile situation?
Geri is a tax exile in Paris. So this, I mean, when we do meet her accountant later, who I've got a real story about and I've gone into.
Oh, God.
So clearly the past couple of years, so they must have started really earning money in 96. It's now 1998. We've had about 2 years of solid earning millions and millions of pounds. Clearly, and they're never in one place at one time. So clearly their accountant said, you know what? If you're traveling all the time, you're earning all this money, let's just register you in like Switzerland or something.
Right. It's like the Shakira thing, right?
What's the Shakira thing?
There's something about where Shakira registered for her taxes.
Oh.
And she hasn't been enough of a resident there to actually, there's something happening.
So
I don't know any of my facts.
I essentially think that Geri is registered to, much like us, a barge in international waters. And that's where her HMRC letters and correspondence go to.
Right.
So she can only spend a limited amount of time in the UK every year. I think that's what it is.
Right. Well, they say it so much in this that she's in tax exile in France that I googled tax exile in French.
Cool.
It's exile fiscal. So from this moment on, I'll only refer to it as exile fiscal.
And also thinking about, I'm really defending being a tax exile now.
Well, trags.
But if they were meant to be traveling the whole world for 1998. So looking ahead, your accountant would go, well, the thing is, you're not going to be here this year. Anyway.
It's just very funny that all this chaos is happening and she's in exile financier in Paris.
In the most gorgeous hotel. So she's on, Molly has stepped in, this filmmaker, and she's now taking over the reins. They're on the hotel terrace.
Yeah.
So she's clearly got a gorgeous hotel suite. You can see the Eiffel Tower, and it's got this hotel terrace. And Geri does this thing where she's like clambering around, being like, Molly, I was up here the other day climbing around. I thought if the press saw me, they thought I might be committing suicide. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, there's some the relationship between Geri and Molly is very Valerie Cherish and what's the
Jane.
Yeah, it's very Valerie and Jane. There's some real darkness happening between the two of them.
So on this hotel terrace, Geri is wearing a very simple grey dress.
I wrote, is it a silk camisole?
Oh,
maybe.
Is it?
I don't know. It's like a baby doll camisole-y kind of number.
So I remember as a fan at this time being really disappointed with what she wore. Because like, she's being so boring.
Too
now I
simple.
look at it, I'm like,
She looks great.
She is so chic and pared back.
She looks fantastic in nearly every shot of this entire documentary.
Oh,
she looks great.
Glowing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there are head to toe like waiters in full tuxedo drag just bringing cloches.
Yeah, so many cloches.
A word that I only know from working on Come Dine With Me.
Yeah.
Like those silver reveal cloche things.
I only know the word cloche from working in television because every
great.
like UK dumb show that you work on, they're like, we just need to do why don't we bring it in on one of those things? You're like, it's called a cloche.
Cloche. And they're just arranging sun loungers. This is she's a tax exile. There is a documentary filmmaker. We're in Paris. There are cloches. This is the most glamorous setup of all time.
I like the stripy sunbeds as well. Very nice. And then at this point, thanks to the exile fiscal, all of a sudden, which the documentarian Molly keeps mentioning, she says, we're on the move. And we basically see Geri clip-clopping in a pair of heels. I'd say a pair of mules through the Eurostar terminal.
So yeah, this next section I've just called Eurostar. I thought they were platform shoes, and she's got black pants and a crisp white shirt.
Yeah, businesslike.
So businesslike. She's got a copy of a paper, and she's got a cappuccino. You know,
Love it.
This is also just going back to the tax facile exile de française. Do you not think now if someone tried to do that, being a tax exile like that, everyone would really talk about it? Also, she was meant to be like an emblem of the UK, wearing a Union Jack dress, and she's a tax exile. Anyway.
Yeah, it's all very like Gary Barlow, all that kind of darkness that happened not so long ago with all their tax exile stuff.
So she hops on to the Eurostar, and there she has a copy of the Daily Mail. And what's so poetic about this? The Daily Mail has a photo of her in the grey dress that we just saw in the scene before. And it says that it has the phrase natural spice written on it. And then Molly says, you look like Fergie.
Oh, no. Don't say that. Not Fergie Ferg.
So good.
So good. Then we have a very odd interaction with Hugo, a very posh...
I was like, how did you find out his name? I was like, oh, okay.
I worked backwards from the autograph. So Hugo, this very odd, I'm assuming some kind of odd French to English banker or some weirdo that was going on the Eurostar.
Well, he's just to be clear, he's very English.
Very English, but I meant like posh, whatever. Yeah. He basically... It says a very long-winded roundabout way. He's like, oh, you're just, I think actually you look great in this picture. Your natural shines really shining through.
Your character really comes through.
At one point, I think he says war paint about her usual makeup. I was like, all right, Hugo, calm down. But anyway, Geri's very touched by this, and she signs his shirt with a biro.
Meanwhile, let's get out that chunky Nokia, translation Nokia for US listeners.
Yeah.
So Geri has a call with her lawyer. And Geri says, she's talking about the documentary. She's like, no. And Molly's filming all of this. Geri's like, no, it's fine. I'm in complete control. If there's something serious, they'll leave the room. So she gets off the call, and Molly's like,
do you know what, Geri? I was listening to your call, and actually, you don't have complete control of this. That was quite a good Molly impression, right?
But she's a bit more firm. That sorry, Geri. It's a bit, sorry, Geri. So Molly essentially says to Geri, I'm not going to follow you for months for you then to be like, no, don't show any of this.
Yeah, and then Geri does some classic Geri speak, which she kind of goes, yeah. And then she does this whole thing, which I didn't even bother writing it down. Geri's really good at saying a lot of things and also saying nothing at the same time.
Yeah.
So she kind of just goes on this big long thing where she kind of agrees with Molly, but then talks about how she wouldn't do a documentary that would make her look like a fool. But, yikes. That one's still to come.
That documentary.
The other one, yeah.
Yeah, because overall this documentary it's just fascinating. I think it seems like a very honest.
Yeah, this feels
portrayal.
like more of an actual time capsule of a moment, whereas the other Geri documentary is a full on like just trip into darkness. It's really bad.
So
they use too much to transition us to Sotheby's. And we get like too much. We get the song too much, but then with lots of footage from like, is it just footage of the video that we saw at that bit, or is it like some footage of Geri's outfits? Because it's kind of used to transition us to her outfits at Sotheby's. But I just wrote down, I just love too much. That song really makes me feel something. That like beginning, like, it makes me feel instantly Christmassy, and it makes me feel like a child. I get like childlike Christmas feeling when I hear it.
Well, speaking of, we are at Sotheby's, and Geri is auctioning off some Spice memorabilia, including the dress that she wears the opening of Spice World, the movie, when they're singing Too Much at Top of the Pops. Yeah. It's that white one that's like...
It says girl power.
Girl power, freedom, blah, 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 blah. That's Under the Hammer, that one. Also, we've got the red booby dress, the Jessica Chastain,
yes.
Jessica Simpson, Jessica Rabbit style
Jessica
dress,
Alba,
Jessica Alba,
Jessica Lange, Jessica Fletcher.
We've got that dress.
Jessica Biel. Sorry, I had to get all of them out.
We've got that dress from the Brit Awards.
Yep.
And then, of course, we have the Union Jack dress as well.
And the trapeze, that trapeze dress, trapeze outfit from when she kissed Prince Charles on the cheek.
Yes, and also the Elvis costume she wore, I think it was the MTV Awards in Vegas. So good.
Big shout out to... So basically, Molly tells us at this point, it's like, and this is the last chance for members of the public to take a look. Big shout out to just really quick shot of some woman who looks literally like she's wandered in from doing her like Tesco shop. She's like, oh, what's going on? And then a really big shout out to this kind of glamorous older woman who just tries on like a black fur jacket of Geri's and kind of just goes like, oh, okay.
Yeah, doesn't quite fit, but okay. Also... why are members of the public coming in and trying the things on?
It didn't seem like there should be people able just to rummage through like racks of Geri's clothes. It felt like the key pieces were behind glass, but that felt like, there was almost like just a rail. She's like, oh, and just some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Although I do think that black thing maybe was was it that black thing that she wears in Spice World when they're on the balcony and talking to Jennifer Saunders?
I wish it were. I think it's more...
Manta Ray?
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I felt like that was more of a long, flowing kind of almost like a robe, and that woman looked like she was trying on like a bolero jacket. Do you know what? We've got so much more to talk about. I don't know why we're talking about the bolero jacket.
There's also a young fan who's like sniffing and crying, and Molly's like, "Excuse me, just want to know why you're crying, why you're so upset." And Molly says, I mean, she's not dead. Talking about Geri.
Yeah, Molly has a little bit of an attitude throughout this documentary that's fun to hear, but also a bit annoying. But yeah, and that girl said, she's just like, I'm just thinking about all the good stuff they've done. It's like, yeah, you're right. She's thinking about how much she loves the Spice Girls. Leave her alone, Molly.
Yeah. So meanwhile, she's on her way to Sotheby's, and she's like in a slick black suit.
She looked gorgeous in this shot.
And she's talking about Ginger. She's talking about her alter ego, and she said that she represents her wild child days. And there's a really weird shot where Molly really zooms in on her nose. Yeah, if you saw that.
No, and that's when I wrote she looks really beautiful in this, because I was like, she can really withstand like an extreme close up.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
With Molly's camcorder. And they're talking about a number of things. They're talking about why she left.
Yeah.
And she said that she just couldn't stay. She had no choice. She was put in that situation. And one member in particular wanted her out. Mel B.
Excuse me.
And really, Molly has a bit of a voiceover, and she says that it all came down to Geri being denied being allowed to do a solo interview about breast cancer.
Yeah, but there's a great line from Molly where she says, actually, Geri had handed her notice in a while back. And I was like, handed a notice in to like HR? Who's that? Emma. Of course, Emma's in HR. She handles all the HR problems for sure. Lovely Emma.
Imagine having an issue and just going off to see Emma, and I'd be like, sit down, we'll get you
She'd make you a cup of tea. Yeah, exactly. She's like, Geri, can we just talk about this over a cup of tea?
What Emma has said after she left that week, they're all like trying to call her and being like, what are you doing? Come on. So Geri is briefed before going to the auction.
Yeah,
and they're
we're
like,
having a PR meeting with
meeting.
Jonathan Hackford of Freud Communications.
Oh,
yeah, I wrote down a lot of captions.
And this is her first proper public appearance since leaving the Spice Girls. And they're saying, they might ask you, are you happy you're no longer a Spice Girl? And Geri says, well, for that, I'll just say, are you happy? What is happiness?
Yeah, she literally says, I'll just get really deep and they'll be fine. We get a wonderful scene where she's in the bathroom. She's literally on the toilet, I believe, like doing a wee and talking to Molly behind the toilet door.
Oh my God.
And then she pops out, and do you notice what she does? She's like chit-chatting away to Molly. She gets out her makeup bag, and you hear...
She gets a touche éclat.
Click, 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 click. She gets her touche éclat out and starts putting on her touche éclat under her eyes. What a makeup thing of a product of a time, eh?
The thing that gets me throughout this whole thing is that for all these events, Geri's just doing her own makeup.
Yeah, she's literally... Something that you and I make a joke of. She's literally bunging her hair up all the time. She's bunged it up.
And because she's 25, she looks gorgeous the whole time. So...
she's putting on her black dress. There's a lot of shots of her talking really deeply about things while she's struggling to zip up her dress. Mm-hmm. Molly goes, just reach over your head and do it.
But she's regretting her tattoos.
Oh yeah.
Here she regrets her tattoos. She says she thinks they look cheap. Does she still have them?
I don't know. It's hard to tell in the Rainbow Woman era, isn't it?
Yeah. When those Elizabethan costumes
exactly.
that she puts herself into.
White Rolex that we're seeing.
Those Elizabethan ruffs that she pops on.
And then, at this point, the Sotheby's auction is starting, and we're seeing her kind of backstage at Sotheby's. And this is the first of many times in this documentary where I said, oh my God, I feel so nervous for her. I got like really, really invested in like the pressure that she was under. And then I also loved that there's like Sotheby's models modeling her outfits to no music.
So good. And also the models, where were these models booked from? Are they meant to look like Geri or not? I don't know.
It was very, very curious. It felt like there was, at the last minute, they were like, oh, fuck. Do you feel like there's like a Sotheby's employee that's always like, she's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But like modeling to no music while someone's just like, 35, and then Geri Halliwell won this and the 99 Brit Awards. And she's literally just like, la, 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 la. I would love to be, I'll apply for that job, Sotheby's model. Just modeling pop stars' garments for everyone.
They're all tat. So Geri comes out because she's going to auction off the star item, the Union Jack dress. And she is just a pro, though, isn't she?
She is.
With the crowds.
She's an old hoofer.
She'd be the first to admit, like, I have no idea how an auction works, but I'm just going to stand up here and just charm you all.
Yeah.
Geri auctions off the star item for £36,000.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Really
for
fun.
her.
Then we have a very panic-inducing moment where there's just like a real scramble of press trying to talk to her, and her bloody car's been moved on. That really stressed me out.
Abandoned in Bond Street.
Yeah.
The car's moved on.
Jonathan Hackford of Freud Communications just screaming into a Nokia 3210 to bring that car back around. Yeah. That really stressed me out.
And she goes into like a Ralph Lauren or something like that. And then Geri's like, oh wait, who's got my briefcase?
I just kept writing, where's Geri's bag?
No, but she said briefcase. What's inside that briefcase?
Touche éclat.
Okay, got it.
When she had that dress folded up in the briefcase, like a European traveller, like a businessman.
Well, she's just been to...
Exactly.
She just saw Hugo in the Eurostar.
Exile, Texan, Sauton. Yeah.
And afterwards, in general, she just says that she feels ecstatic and charged. I feel loved.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah. The next day, however...
Oh yeah, she's reading the papers. And they basically... There's just like an article that she reads out with it, essentially saying that she's like lost all of her like ginger spice charm, aren't they?
Yeah, and there are
It's
phrases
mean.
in it like power dressed dreary, how Geri lost all her spice. It's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
She either wears the trapeze artist outfit.
Yeah,
and
well-
you call her like
Yeah, they would have said old slut at Sotheby's or something.
exactly, or
Not the most imaginative headline.
or she's selling all her costumes for a good cause and like, oh, she's boring now.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It really is vicious. But
Yeah.
do you know what? We are in tax exile. We need to get back to France.
Pardon, l'exil fiscal
mais
dans
oui.
l'hôtel dans le Paris, en la rue de Cinq, Charles Cinq.
Well, and also bearing in mind, she must have bought a return ticket. Aller-retour.
La billet, le billet return pour l'exil fiscal.
Durostat.
I'd love to think of a French person hearing what I just said. Just the most garbled nonsense. I know the words, don't know how to string them together.
So we are back in the hotel. We're on that terrace, and she has a meeting with her accountant.
Yeah, in a bikini.
Geri's in a bikini. Her accountant, Charles Bradbrook.
Yep.
Okay, let me tell you something about him. I did a little digging. So he has been all of their accountants for a while, and at one point, maybe in like 2014, he was David and Victoria Beckham's accountant. And I found this article about David Beckham for a while really, really wanted a knighthood and was kind of unofficially petitioning for it.
Yeah.
And it all got leaked how angry he
remember
was because of an email with Charles Bradbrook. And that was the email that got leaked.
Oh, shit.
So I thought I just really enjoyed that.
Yeah, so we're not in safe waters with Charles Bradbrook. I wrote at this point, I miss Geri's old voice. She was just talking in this scene, and I just loved her raspy Geri voice that she had back in this day. She's gone just a little lady of the manor these days.
Yeah, but this is like the in-between stage where it's definitely poshed up a bit.
Yeah, this feels like she's balancing out, but I just like she's just a little more like, whereas now she's kind of lady of the manor. Anyway, we have a wild conversation about her dad dying at this point.
Well, I mean, there's so much going on. First of all, as you said, she's in her sunflower bikini,
Yep.
having a meeting with her accountant on that terrace in the hotel, and she's planning a book.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
which she's pitching to her accountant, apparently. Meanwhile, there's another woman there who we discover later is Tor Williamson, Geri's PA.
Oh yeah, she
seems
seems
to have
like
a lot of incredibly posh people in her life.
yeah, she does.
Tor. And then, Geri is talking about what's going to be in her book, anorexia, bulimia, and then she talks about her dad dying.
Yeah.
Because she starts writing a letter to Prince Charles for advice and support.
Yeah.
I find this utterly charming.
Yeah, it feels... It's the kind of thing you would have read about at the time, being like, Geri wrote to Charles, it's like, oh, whatever. Then you're like, oh, you see her in that daisy print bikini on the rooftop of her Exile Financial hotel. You're like, oh, yeah, this is how she is.
And it's so sweet. She's essentially writing letters to lots of high-profile people who she's met or respects or has connections to, just asking for their advice, like, what do I do next?
Right.
I just think that's so charming. But she needs Molly's help. She's like, Molly, help me, come on. And then she says to Molly, come on, Molly, you don't need your brain to film.
Yeah, that also felt very Valerie and Jane, didn't it?
Yeah.
She's like, Jane, is it sincerely? Is that what I write? Jane? And Jane's like, I can't help you, Valerie. It felt, very Valerie and Jane.
Still in France.
We have a wild change of location that Molly decides to cover with the line, the arguments continue, but the location's changed. Now we're at George Michael's villa. And I was like, I almost fell off my chair. I was like, George Michael's villa!
And Geri's telling, no sign of George Michael just yet, but Geri is telling Molly, I mean, you're my world. You're my mate. And she talks about how people who enter her world become her mates. I mean, no wonder she had her accountant, for that glass of water in the terrace. But she talks about her friends back in Watford. Essentially, she's saying that, well, it's sort of implied that she basically needs some rich international friends.
Yeah, she does.
Which is kind of true.
Yeah, she's like, isn't Molly, she's like, oh, well, why can't they come? She's like, oh, they can't. They've got like kids and stuff. And then we meet her friend later, and I do like the idea of that woman that had the baby at the house. Yeah. She's just like, she's like, Geri, I can't come to George Michael's villa. I'm busy. I've got a baby. Yeah. I've got to go to Tesco's.
So they tried to go out for dinner, but it gets aborted, and Molly's filming the paparazzi.
Yeah, he definitely pushes Molly with the camera kind of in the face. in a way that's a little more of an assault than I think we realized at the time. But
The 90s.
It's the 90s. It's France. Oh, you know what is that? Le paparazzi dans la rue avec la caméra
Je suis désolé.
photographique. Geri falls over in the street trying to get into our car. That's pretty fun.
And then we're out of France.
We fly wildly to Berkhamstead. Berkhamstead.
Who knows? It's September 1998.
Well, Geri's bloody brother's picked her up.
It's her brother Max.
It's Max. Max has some small but impactful dark moments in this documentary, all masked behind just a fun older brother smile.
Yeah. So Geri has rented a cottage at the back of a dairy farm. And her mum's come for the day to clean.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to read the line verbatim that
Okay.
Molly decided to write down and record.
Okay.
Geri's mother, who is Spanish, has come for the day to clean. Like, Molly, I don't know why you needed to address that Anna was Spanish, but she is. Now, Anna is a star in this documentary. Never not washing up.
Well, her job was a cleaner. She's a professional cleaner, so she's always just cleaning.
She's never not standing at that yellow plastic washing up bowl, washing up those disgusting mugs and plates. I love her.
Oh.
Love her.
So Geri's received at the dairy farm a letter from Charles.
But it turn out that he'd sent the letter before she sent her letter. It was he'd already sent a preemptive letter.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on that.
Tor saying that, so I thought that was really sweet. But then I just became very fixated on the yellow plastic washing up bowl in the sink, and the plates and just the decor of this cottage are wild.
Well, I took a picture of the sign that Geri has hanging up in her bedroom. I sent it to you. Where is it? Crazy, sexy, strong and proud. This vamping vixen babe is loud. I'll take my chances, roll the dice, because Geri is my favorite spice. Now, is that unauthorized merchandise that someone found and signed and gave to Geri, or has someone got a really early color printer and they've written that? Where's this from?
I don't know. It all felt it did feel like it was done on an inkjet. That heavy wet paper from an inkjet.
Yeah. It's a funky red font.
Can we talk about the decor in this bedroom that she goes into?
Well, up on the wall, there is Geri's accolade from the Sun, sexiest female, and there's also a Smash Hits award in the corner. What decor were you referring to?
Well, there's a lot to take in this bedroom. There's the pine kind of dresser that the Smash Hits award. She spends a lot of time in this documentary standing in front of that, like a pine chest of drawers.
Yeah.
There's wild, really bright blue curtains in this room and kind of a lime green bedding set on the bed. And then I don't know if you noticed, but just peeking around, I don't know what you call it, because it's not dado rail goes in the middle. What's it called when you have the thing
near the top?
At the top. What is that? What's the wording for that? It's like a real 90s thing. We had it in my house growing up. We had a thick line of something. But in that house, in that bedroom, it's green, vines. It's a leaf design all around the top of the room.
Like a border.
Yeah, it's like a border, but very specifically the border between the roof and the top of the wall. There's I want to say a frieze, but I don't think that's the right word either. We had all kinds of, our house was filled with so many dado rails and this and that, things chopping up walls. I don't know what my mum was doing. Sorry, I'm getting really carried away, but there was also, just on the walls, felt like a real changing rooms sponge effect had been used in that cottage.
To be fair, Geri has not decorated this cottage.
I'm not saying this is her fault. I just say I can't not talk about it.
It is Geri just wanting to live at the back of a dairy farm, which is very, very sweet. And the way she talks to all the people who work on the farm, she's like, "Hey Tim,
well, when
you got the eggs?"
When she says goodbye to him, there's a really sweet moment where she's basically just thank you for protecting me and not giving me away to anyone. And I think he genuinely, that farmer just did. It's really sweet.
Oh. So Geri also finds a picture of her dad and shows it to Molly, to which Molly says, "God, he looks nice." I was like, what? It's just a picture of an old man. What do you mean?
Yeah, see, at this point she started, in my notes I wrote, she starts wanging on about cosmic shopping lists. So I wasn't listening to this and I just got really transfixed with the decor and that white boombox behind her.
Well, cosmic shopping list. So Geri essentially invents manifestation.
Yes.
Because at the time watching this, this must have blown everyone's mind, but she essentially manifests things that she wants.
Yes.
So she writes a list in the present tense of, I want happiness and health. My house is my sanctuary. It's all present tense,
Right.
and she puts the back of a photo and she updates it every year. That's all it is, basically.
Like Noel Edmonds. Remember when he became the face of like cosmic ordering?
But that's cosmic ordering. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, this was cosmic shopping lists.
Who knows?
I mean, it feels like semantics, but anyway, it doesn't matter. My notes now just say we've moved to the kitchen, and I've noticed that the pattern is not leaves around the top of the wall. It's actually like bunches of grapes. And then I've just written in capital, these bowls and mugs.
Oh,
We definitely had
We
them.
had those bowls and
Yeah,
mugs.
for sure.
They're very colourful 90s dinnerware with colourful fruits on them.
Yeah, chunky.
Yeah.
Everything's very thick
Well,
mugs.
they will last in the dishwasher, okay? Jerry never Jerry's mum never wanted her to become a star, and Jerry's mum says that she was angry with her dad for helping Jerry to become a star. So that's all going on.
Can I read my favourite next quote? Jerry's chosen an Australian to edit her autobiography to give it more of an international feeling. What? Did he write it in an Australian accent?
I mean, what does this mean? So yes,
Good day, my name's Jerry.
so they're now rifling through a suitcase of photos.
Oh, what
for
I
the
would give
autobiography.
to have unfettered access to those suitcases full of old crap. I want to see all of it.
So this includes some racy photos outside a factory in Spain. There are the topless photos, and she's wearing a scarf and gloves, and she's actually being very funny about them. She's like, oh, classic, oh, I'm so cold and shivering, and she's topless with scarf and gloves. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah, but then we cut to some Spice Girls world tour kind of news footage, and it's like, oh, it's rumored that Jerry's going to be joining them, on this, like, it's like all this big thing.
Yes, because what's happening now is the Spice Girls are back from their tour all around the world, and they're now doing Wembley Stadium.
Right, they thought she'd come back and
Yeah.
say goodbye that way.
And that was the big rumor, because I remember I didn't have Sky at the time, but my cousins did, so they ordered it for me via CableTel.
Excuse me.
So it was like, £10 or whatever
Right.
to watch it. So I went over to watch it on CableTel.
Uh-huh.
And I remember thinking maybe Jerry will turn up.
Well,
She didn't.
turns out she was sitting in a field on the farm with Molly, being literally, again, I wrote just wanging on about Mel B, but I just said she looks gorgeous in this like golden hour light on the farm, just like staring out into the fields. She looked beautiful in this moment.
Yeah, and Jerry talks about a quote from the paper where Mel B said that we're stronger now Jerry's left. We don't need her anymore.
Let's just have a real weird brief shot of Jerry in the studio.
Heaven knows I'm
What song is
less
that?
than perfect, baby.
What song is that?
Heaven knows that. It's definitely on the Schizophonic album.
Problematic name.
No, because she changed it from Schizophrenic because she didn't want to upset anyone, so she called it Schizophonic.
Okay.
That's true.
No, I know. It doesn't make it any better.
Oh, I know. So she said the song is about low self-esteem, and in the school nativity, she was always the donkey or a shepherd. She was never Mary. Heaven knows I'm less than perfect, baby.
We're going to fly from that recording session to ICM management for what I wrote in all caps, a fucking wild meeting.
Yes.
We open with a dog staring into the void. There's a dog with its back to camera staring into the wall blankly.
Also, is this official? Is this an official meeting? Because there's just a man like standing with a cup of tea, leaning against a wall, almost like he didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah,
but
it
he
feels
walked
like
into the room and now he's caught there.
It does feel like she just turned up.
Yeah. So, do you want to tell us what Jerry visions? Is that the right word for her career? What does Jerry see?
Let's start. So much like the dog staring into the void, she's got a lot of plans. One is that she's writing her book. It's going to be very Bridget Jones. I wrote in question marks.
Bridget Jonesy.
Bridget Jonesy. In the near future, she wants to present the Brit Awards.
Fair.
She wants to just do a British comedy.
Yeah.
Samantha Jones!
She doesn't want to do the kind of go in and become Oprah and Scylla now.
Which doesn't want to do
26.
she doesn't want to do TV right away because
Yeah.
that would cheapen her.
Yeah, so-
and she says that she wants to be an Oprah Scylla Black when she's 36.
Yeah, not
because
26.
no one would take her seriously at 26.
Exactly. And then, most importantly, she wants to be a James Bond baddie.
Samantha Jones!
Okay. Now I know we've tried to work this out a million times. So it's 1998.
Okay.
So-
I looked it up.
Must be Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yes, it's either no.
No?
I looked it up specifically so that we wouldn't
Okay.
Okay. So the next Bond movie that was officially made after, I think it was 1999, obviously when this came out.
World Is Not Enough?
So it's either The World Is Not Enough, or if there's a longer lead on production time, it was Die Another Day. So I think it was The World, because basically she says that she will, because essentially we get to the point where it says that she's meeting the Bond producers to play a female villain.
Yes.
And there's a female villain. The main villain in The World Is Not Enough is female. That's
it.
That's the French woman that like betrays James Bond. You know, she portrays M. Remember? So it's basically that's the pipeline one with
yes.
Denise Richards. And remember,
That's a good one.
she's the kind of woman that I think she gets kidnapped. Do you remember?
Yes.
And it's all about like Stockholm Syndrome, and she's actually the one behind it all. So Geri was either going for that part, which I think would have made that film possibly the funniest film ever made, because it also starred Denise Richards as a nuclear physicist. Or if there was a longer lead on production time, it was the Rosamund Pike role in Die Another Day, because that was the female bad guy in that. Either way, we were robbed of Geri playing two quite fantastic, iconic parts. So at this point, we kind of smash cut from the ICM offices, and I just wrote this. We cut to footage of Geri tripping around Soho with her hair falling out of a bun and her, like tripping over her heels, running to meet the Bond producers.
Yes, wait, I've just looked at the production of The World Is Not Enough. Principal photography began on January 17th, 1999, and lasted until June that year. So we're currently in 98.
Yeah.
Must have been that.
Must have been The World Is Not Enough, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
I'm not sure she could have handled that role. It was quite meaty, and it did require her to be a good guy turns into a bad guy. I'm not sure Geri could have handled the
French
nuances
accent
of that.
when she reveals
Yeah, she's
herself?
French.
Well, Geri.
I could have given you the world.
The world is not enough.
Foolish sentiment.
Family motto.
Samantha Jones!
So yeah, we now need to go audition for that role. So Geri is driving to the Bond audition. She's wearing sort of, I've written great slick chunky heels. Slick and chunky,
Yeah.
that's right.
This is very Valerie Cherish, this moment as well. Just kind of her tripping around Soho, like her hair's coming out of a bun. You know, Jane/Molly has decided to inexplicably play the Bond music in the final cut of this documentary.
Not inexplicably, like justifiably
Well, yeah,
so.
it's very, very funny.
And then what does Molly ask about? So at the last minute, Geri's like walking into the audition, and Molly says, "Would you go all the way to get it? You know, would you take something off?" And Geri's like,
What?
"Oh no, no, I've done all that."
Wild.
Oh yeah. So, talking of hair falling out of a bun, what's the next scene?
We're back at the cottage.
Yeah.
Back at that
The dairy farm.
the sponge painted dairy farm cottage, and Janine's over.
Yeah.
Geri's having her hair done, and she's just chit chatting away to Janine.
Oh, this is it's a hectic kitchen because her friend Janine's doing Geri's hair. There's a baby crying.
Anna's in and out of the room, obviously either tending to the baby or washing up, because
Spanish mum Anna. Yeah.
Constantly grabbing that. There was a very visible bottle of Fairy at one point, but like the really 90s bottle of
Yep,
Fairy, like
white.
the very plain white one with the baby on it. Just constantly squirting that Fairy into that plastic yellow washing up bowl.
Yeah. So Geri didn't get the part. She didn't get the Bond part.
Samantha Jones!
Yeah, and this point, Janine sits down with her baby, and it's just a lot of like chat. She's like, Geri's just got to learn to love herself. And she really, essentially in front of Geri, has a really devastating conversation with Molly, where she basically talks about Geri like she's not there. And she's like, Geri hasn't got any friends.
Yeah. And then Geri's mum says, I just think, Geri, if you had like a simple life, like you
Like
have
Janine.
Janine.
Just, honestly, the star of this documentary is Anna, just savaging everyone from that yellow plastic washing up bowl.
So good. Geri says she just wants to be happy. Molly asks Janine, what was it like when she was in the Spice Girls? And Janine was like, oh no, it was way worse.
Yeah, it's even worse.
Yeah.
She essentially says, God, yeah, she was so annoying.
Yeah.
Should we take a quick break before we wildly pivot to the UN?
Let's. Where are we?
Oh, do you know what? We're having a meeting with the UN.
Why not? Why not? Okay, I have to say at this point in the documentary, we have gorged on so many celeb documentaries over the years. Most of them are not great and have very little substance and very little going on. Particularly more recent years of trying to think of, the Saturday's reality show, trying to make something out of absolutely nothing. There is so much happening in this one documentary. It's so meaty and legit.
We're like one bite into the gammon, and there's still so much more gammon to go.
I mean, she's been asked to be a UN ambassador. So we're at the UN. What?
Well, I don't think we're officially at the UN yet, are we? This seems to be some kind of satellite UN office, because we very officially go to the UN later.
That's right.
I feel like this looks like my old office building back in London in Shepherd's Bush. You know which building I'm talking about, right?
Exactly.
Has that real air of 90s dead funky meeting rooms.
So,
huge bottle of Vital water on the table. Did you notice that?
Yeah. We've just gone from that 90s decorated cottage at the at the back of the dairy farm to a meeting with the UN. Just need to point that out.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. My only notes from this really are about how it looks like my old office building, the Vital water bottle, and just the sheer, the women's hair in this meeting. 1998 was such big hair, such big, kind of fluffy, unruly hair.
Lovely.
Productless, huge volume. I loved it. Well, no, that's a lie, not productless. But we're just deep into hairspray and mousse.
Product fool.
Just hairspray and mousse, but no smoothing products. I'm sorry, I'm really going off track, but I was just so mesmerized by all their hair.
So Geri's been asked to be a goodwill ambassador for sexual and reproductive health. Geri says for the first time in her life, her mum is proud of her. She is just so excited and flattered and saying in the meeting, I have to ask, why have you chosen me? It's really...
She's very sweet in that meeting.
So lovely.
Oh, God, we're back to that sponge-painted kitchen again, and she's just talking about being lonely. But I do like her hair did look good after being kind of reblonded. It looks good in this scene.
She's got... Wait, well, what's her name's done that? Her friend?
Janice, is that her name?
Janet,
Janet.
it is.
Janine.
So we're back at the farm. Geri's talking about the fact she has 3 or 4 nice friends, and it gets the weekend and the work stops and she has nothing to do. And in terms of relationships, she can't have a fling because it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting about at the weekend she's got nothing to do.
Yeah.
So that's why she just wants to work and do stuff. You would though, wouldn't you? Oh my God, post Spice Girls Geri, I would be saying yes to so much stuff.
So we need to get to the UN headquarters in New York City.
Oh my God, well, do you know what? I'm going to pop on a black beret for this trip.
I fucking love this look. She's wearing a black beret and black sunglasses, and she's just pounding through Heathrow Airport. We got a real solid shot of a W.H. Smith in the background. Did you see that? Real solid shot of it, sorry.
So both before she leaves and when she lands in New York, the press are inside the airport. I didn't understand that.
That is true. They're inside the airport at LAX as well. That's why you get pictures of people coming in the terminal walking out.
Oh,
of
I guess
There's
check
a certain
in.
Yeah. Isn't that what TMZ stands for? 30-mile zone or something?
Oh, I don't know.
I think I'm getting a few things mixed up all at the same time here. There's definitely a thing in LAX that's a certain part that they can go into.
Got it. I've got a question for you. Mm-hmm. She lands in New York and someone from GMTV tries to talk to her. Hi, Geri. Hi, Geri.
It's Trish from GMTV.
It's GMTV. Now, who would you speak to? If you're going to speak to anything, who would you speak to?
Probably GMTV.
GMTV?
Yeah, not the Times. Not when the Times is begging her for a quote in Heathrow.
I would do Lorraine.
Yeah.
Alison Hammond. If Alison Hammond was there.
Oh, of course.
I'd be like, Alison, come in the car.
Yeah.
I'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then I would try and do an NPR thing as well. I would do Lorraine, Alison Hammond, NPR for the States, and then also BBC Scotland.
Right.
But quite specifically BBC Scotland. Okay, done.
Good to know.
Yeah.
It's a good thing Geri's having some time to get ready because she doesn't want to meet Coley Annan. Kofi Annan.
Oh,
she corrects us. No, I'm saying she corrects herself. So good for her. She gets it right. So yeah, she's greeted in New York by GMTV. Then she gets into a limo that's wildly filled with full glass whiskey decanters. Did you see that? It wasn't limo specific bottles of alcohol. It was full on a posh crystal decanters of whiskey. I was like,
Who's paying for this limo, do you think?
Unclear. The UN?
That's what I mean, because if it's the UN, that's pretty extravagant.
Yeah.
Or is it Geri? I mean, who knows? So I've also written here, this has always been my pitch for Geri since leaving the Spice Girls. I think, well, now in particular, she should do all the Spice Girls related things. And, you know, she's fine for money. She's always going to be famous.
Those app ads that they're doing at the
Whatever
moment.
they're doing. And you tour that. I'm going to just gloss over those app ads. But then everything in her spare time should just be charity.
Yeah.
Or just goodwill things. Because how glamorous would that be?
Well, aren't you referring to Rainbow Woman? Was that a charity? Was it a YouTube show? What?
But here's
She got in a tank, I think.
But here's my thing: the Spice Girls related things could fuel. She's always going to have that thirst and quench for just wanting to, you know, deal with the quench of being famous and being a Spice Girl. And she can always do it, and they'll always be successful. But then just do all charity work. Yeah, really glamorous charity work. That's my pitch, Geri.
Well, at this point we get a.
Also, I'm a man telling you what to do with your life. Do whatever you want with your life. But that's just, you know, just a thought.
Well, at this point we get a wild, tiny mini story where she says, oh, do you know what? I had this friend, Ronnie, and he wanted me to, you know, go around and sing at curry houses with him and sing The Girl from Ipanema. And I was like, well, excuse me?
Ipanema.
I do love the idea of her going around all the curry houses of Watford with Ronnie, just singing some
Tall
songs.
and tender, then the lovely. The girl. Actually, her voice would suit that.
Oh, we're the Spice Girls, ready to go.
Ladies and gents, would you please take your naan bread and enjoy the curry show? Speaking of singing, we get to the hotel, don't we?
So because I couldn't quite work out what was happening. It's that Molly put the actual backing track in afterwards, didn't she? Because it was Geri was singing along to a instrumental New York, New York, and it didn't sound. I felt like I wasn't getting where it was coming from in the room. So I don't feel like it was. I don't feel like it was. What's the word when music plays in a? Oh yeah. In a scene.
We know this from our studies.
This is future Fraser. What me and Ben couldn't remember is the term diegetic and non-diegetic music. Thank you, university. Worth the debt. Bye. Who cares?
But she's in her hotel room and she's jumping around on the sofa singing and she's pulling the blinds up and down. And in general, she says that it feels like she has a job and it's giving her purpose.
Yeah.
I guess there is that thing of we're freelancers. When you've had moments where you're not working, you do feel like, what am I doing?
Right.
And having a job does give you structure and just keeps you going. And that's why I don't believe in any benefits or people scrounging off the system. No.
Molly May.
No.
My new favourite UK scandal, Molly May.
Once again, for a UN meeting, she is going to be doing her own makeup.
Yeah. There's a really great shot of her leaning her head out the window and she's like, New York City! And then they show the view and it's the other side of like an apartment building with all like the AC units coming out of people's windows. I was like, there you go, that's it. Yes.
So, where are we going next?
Well, they basically say, like, the UN have called a surprise press conference. And then I just said, I remember this outfit. I remember this look so clearly, her UN ambassador first press conference look. And then again, I wrote, I'm genuinely scared for Geri. I was so nervous for her.
I'm going to read the exact line. Unfortunately, the UN has called an immediate press conference for which Geri has had no time to prepare.
Yeah, I got so nervous because they basically... There's a shot of, you know, Jane, as I'm just calling her Jane from now on. Jane's like kind of almost like running some practice questions with her. And she's kind of like, I think actually at this point, Molly was actually kind of, she does seem like she's on Geri's side. Like she's trying to make sure she doesn't really fuck up. So she's kind of asking her about like reproductive rights and those kind of questions. And Geri's like getting so nervous that she's accidentally saying things like pro-life and just kind of like, it's really, like, I got so scared for her because it's like, you know, Geri's not a bad person and her intention is to say the right thing and you know, she's really like actually excited about doing it. And I was like, oh God, even though I know she didn't go in there and say she was pro-life, I still felt like she might.
And then we see her in the press conference and she is an utter pro.
Yeah, like even when that man asks that insane fucking question about the US government funding the UN.
Oh my God. Yeah, because there's that moment where that guy asks essentially 4 questions in one and Geri's like, well, I've just started, but come back to me in a year and perhaps I'll have answers to your questions. But so I'm very impressed with her. But then she starts to go a little too far. Yeah. And she's like, if I could save just one person's life, then I'll do it.
Yeah, she's slightly unraveled, but only ever so slightly.
Yeah, so impressive.
Yeah, it's really good.
So impressive. But you know, we're gonna have to debrief and have a lunch afterwards. Is that Angela Merkel?
I didn't know. I felt like I actually wrote this. The UN stuff looks like it was filmed in 1982. I didn't understand what was happening. Everyone's hair was insane. There was that man called Sterling D. Scruggs. And I couldn't understand what he was saying. He had a tie with birds on it. Yeah, they go to a meeting that I honestly looked like it took place in maybe like 1992. It felt like it had strong 92 vibes.
I've just written
wood paneling.
Boring lunch with bad food and bad china.
Yeah.
That's what I've written.
And like it looked like warm white wine being like glasses being
really,
clicked
really
together.
thick glasses.
Yes. With a real thick kind of Chardonnay in it. Like,
But in general, I just wrote, that was so exciting. Well done, Geri.
yeah, really happy for her. And, could have done with maybe just a little palette cleanser of like a shot of some scenery to get us, not to smash cut directly into like, where was she? Like FAO Schwartz. Like shots of Geri just stuffing stuffed monkeys onto a shelf. It was very odd.
So she's in FAO Schwartz and she talks to a little girl, a little American girl who sees her and is starstruck and just keeps on saying, hi, hi. And Geri's very sweet with her.
She's very British.
And then
You're going to a party?
You're going to go to a party in your frilly frock. And Molly is saying, Geri, why are we here? and Geri is very honest and she says, look, I had a very deprived childhood and I didn't really have many toys, so now I like to come to places like this. So she buys herself a toy monkey.
Yeah, that was tough. And then we really close in on that monkey while we have one of the most depressing scenes of the whole documentary, which is just her being really upset that not one member of her family has called her to congratulate her for the UN press conference. Tough.
Now, this is... Okay.
It was on Sky.
It was on Sky. So Molly says, but they have their own lives, Geri. Everyone else is watching. And then we've got a lovely scene where PA Tor is just leaning against a door frame talking how she doesn't think Geri's happy and she thinks that she'd be happy if she wasn't still trying to be famous.
Yeah.
And then we come back to the UK and maybe one of the most glamorous shots of all time is Geri asleep on Concorde. Oh my God! Going back to the dairy farm.
Well, there was some foreshadowing in Tor's comments where she said like, oh, I just don't think, she's like, I just can't picture, Geri getting married and having kids and living on a farm. It's literally what she does now.
Yeah.
Yeah. She literally predicts Geri's future, which is funny. But yeah,
so
I wrote a note to ask Ben, this is Concorde, right? Because I was like,
God. Yeah.
If anyone's going to be able to recognize Concorde, it's Ben.
God, my dream was... I want to go on Concorde so badly.
It's fine. We'll resurrect it for your 40th.
What, in 3 years' time, we're going to resurrect Concorde?
Oh, fuck, I don't feel like I'm going to make enough money in 3 years to do that.
Sometimes I watch on YouTube, there's a clip of someone's videoed clearly on what at the time was like a $20,000 camcorder in 1988, and it's either Christmas or New Year's Eve and they're on Concorde, and it's like my dream.
Well, never forget the iconic Ab Fab episode Door Handle where they fly on Concorde to
One
New
of my
York
favorite episodes.
to find a door handle. So good.
So we're back in Heathrow in the UK and her brother Max is picking her up.
Yeah.
And I thought I actually appreciated this because Molly says to Max, so did you see any of the UN press conference? And he says no. Yeah, he's being a bit of a shit brother, but he's also being like, well, you know what? I've ordered the tapes. I'm going to watch it. If you're a brother of a Spice Girl, after 3 years...
There's only so much you can take.
A straight brother of a Spice Girl.
Yeah.
How would you know what to watch and what not to watch?
What's important? Yeah, completely.
You'd have no clue anymore.
It does feel like that's slightly some of the push and pull with her, isn't it? It's like, all right, I think maybe they've been congratulating you for a while, but they just... it's too much.
But at the same time, but at the same time, Geri's right, but he's also right.
Yeah.
I'm on both sides in this.
And then we're back with Anna and she's washing up again.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to, I just want to take a real quick moment to discuss what we think is on that. There's a couple of racks behind her. There is a genuine spice rack, but there's also a rack with boxes of cereal on it. I definitely recognized Weetabix because I could see the yellow box and I could kind of see the logo. But what other cereal did you think there was?
Well, in one scene, I swear she's eating Shreddies. Weirdly. But I do think at this stage in time, Geri would be very all-bran. She wrote all-bran. What about Alpen?
Yep, I literally wrote Weetabix, Alpen, and all-bran.
There you go. We know our Geri.
Muesli. Nice little bowl of muesli in the morning.
This is such an annoying...
Is there anything drier and dustier than muesli? It's literal, it's old, dust in a bag. It's so horrible.
It's like when you're in when you're on a building site. But if you've ever been in a house that's getting some work done in it, it's like there's muesli dust over everything. Yeah. Do you know what gets me now? This is a real boring adult thing to say. If you ate now some muesli or some Shreddies, you'd be like, I'm eating pure sugar.
Yeah.
Or all bran as well.
Well, I used to, because Shreddies actually technically didn't have sugar. Like, if you got frosted ones, they had sugar, like, obviously on them. So what I used to do is be like, when I was a kid, I was like, well, I can't just eat this bowl of, like, plain Shreddies. I would put sugar on top of my Shreddies.
Regular Shreddies.
Just like a spoonful of sugar on. Yeah, no, not frosted Shreddies. We always had plain Shreddies that I could then really double the amount of sugar on by doing it myself.
I thought I was being dead healthy, so I would maybe mix some regular Shreddies and some all bran, and then we would have like always in the kitchen a giant tub of those raisins in that red tub. What's that? Sun-made with the maid in the front.
Yeah.
And so I'd have a huge big handful of raisins in there.
Speaking of raisins, do you know what I did like was do you remember they were the
Raisin bran?
No. I loved Raisin Bran, but they were like the squares. They were like a little kind of shredded wheat square, but each one had an individual like raisin in the middle of it.
What were they?
I don't remember what they were called.
Was it a purple pack?
It was a purple box, yeah. And were they called Raisin Brans? No, that's literally what you just said. They're called Raisin Wheats. We'll find that.
Yeah.
I loved them.
I'm always
Each
intrigued.
one had a little sweet raisin in it.
Always intrigued by the fact that you like raisins. Really throws me.
Well, it's like how I like wasabi. Nothing makes any sense.
No. So, in the kitchen, Jerry's making a cup of coffee for Molly because of course. No, wait a minute, sorry.
Anna's making a cup of,
So in the kitchen, Anna, Jerry's Spanish mother, who's Spanish, just so you know, because her mum is Spanish.
Jerry's Spanish mother has come to wash up.
and making a cup of coffee for Molly. And then Jerry stomps into the room and she's like, stop interviewing my mum. And she doesn't want her mum to get famous. She wants her mum to remain being a mother. She's like, Molly, stop wasting your film.
Yeah, and it's like, actually, some of the most electrifying moments for me have been watching Anna washing up at that yellow plastic washing up bowl. I loved it.
But that is that classic thing of, in a documentary, any documentary filmmaker, a good one, always goes for the thing that's not really meant to be the main thing.
Completely.
And that's Anna, our Anna. So we've been at the cottage at the back of the dairy farm, but do you know what? Jerry's getting into real estate.
She bought though? Like a house, right? Just like a regular house.
She has bought an 18-room monastery. So Jerry...
Does she still live there?
No. I've looked into it. Jerry bought this 18-room monastery when she's in the Spice Girls, and she's been secretly renovating it, and she's going to show it to her mum for the first time. So she drives her mum in, and her mum is speechless, and she just keeps on saying, it's very big.
Yeah.
You're going to look so small inside. And then classic Anna... all these windows to clean. And then she works out, oh no, wait a minute, those are the types of windows that they like pop out and swing in. Okay, that's how you clean them.
She's completely fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just kind of does a little tour of the house in its current state, and I think it looks like it's going to be kind of nice.
I think it looks going to be gorgeous.
Yeah, well, we'll get to some of those decor
choices
things
later
at the end.
Because you know what comes around once a year? A birthday. So we're going to have to celebrate someone's birthday. And that is Prince Charles' 50th.
So we are at the...
Take it away. I need to just sit back and breathe a bit before we get into
we're at
this.
was it the Palladium or the Lyceum Theatre? We're at one of the many theatres of London's glittering West End. And, Jerry's arrived and she's kind of in her dressing room. And we have a very sweet moment where she's writing a note for a fan standing outside, and she writes like, oh, thanks for supporting me. I'm really nervous. Lots of love, Jerry. She goes out and gives it to the fan. Did you think it looked like the fan was dressed as Jerry at the UN? Like she'd done cosplay where she's like, oh, I'm going to dress like Jerry did at the UN. She looked really like smart and like had a little like breast cancer ribbon on and looked like she was wearing like a little blazer. She looked really, I felt like she was like a true fan who was like, Jerry's in a new era and I'm going to do it too.
Oh my God. Just thinking about that. If that is correct, how cool that a pop star is encouraging people to get into breast cancer awareness and the UN?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my God.
And so, again, her PR person's like talking. He's like, basically, I got so nervous for her because he said, oh, just so you know, I've spoken, all the papers are basically holding a page to put the picture of you in this dress, you in a dress on the stage. I was like, oh my God, this is so much pressure.
So much pressure. And this is her first public appearance singing since the Spice Girls. Yeah. So Geri's backstage. She's gonna trot around, and this is so sweet. She's gonna trot around and like say good luck to people, and like just see people. First of all, who does she see?
Well, she opens her door and da 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 da. Just Roger Moore's just like literally lurking outside of her door, and he's like, "Oh, what's going on in here?" Oh, that was a good. That was a good Roger Moore impression. Couldn't do that again.
No. And then Geri's she's getting ready. We'll come back to the other celebs that she sees in a little bit. So she's getting ready in another toilet. She's always in a toilet in this show.
Is. And then she just sits down and just does a full interview with Molly while she's not on the toilet, but she sits on the toilet.
Yeah. And she's shouting she opens the window, she's shouting to the fans outside. And Molly asks,
Evita work.
Molly asks, why, Geri, why do you still want fame? And Geri says, she kind of points to the girls screaming her name outside the window. And she essentially says she wants people to continue to know her and more people to know her so she can do good.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. Meanwhile, this sequence.
Okay, I almost cried. And then they showed who was coming into her dressing room.
Who comes in?
George Michael. I'm not actually being facetious when I tell you I like my eyes pricked like a little. I like started welling up a little bit. I love George Michael so much.
Do you?
Yeah, I like love him.
It's pretty cool.
He's so cool. I love his like solo music like a lot. He's like one of the only like male artists I actually ever want to listen to. I love his life. I love that he didn't give a fuck. I love that it was like the 90s and everyone was so homophobic and he was still being like, yeah, I go to Hampstead Heath and like suck dick, like whatever, who gives a fuck? Like he was so good. I love him.
So yeah, he's being lovely and looking so hot.
Yeah.
He's 35 here.
Oh my god, we're older than George Michael in this. Jesus.
But it's like 1998, so a 35-year-old gay man in 1998 looks. I mean, we're really just trying to appease ourselves now. But
he did I loved his earrings. I'm just noticing.
He looks so cool.
You and I both got a little dingle dangle like George Michael in our ears.
Oh my god! Side note. I listened to a podcast, Alan Cummings' podcast, and Geri comes on it, and they talk about some crazy things, including a story where Geri's like, so Alan Cummings tells a story about meeting Elizabeth Taylor, and Geri's like, oh, I used to have some jewelry of Elizabeth Taylor's. George and I went to an auction. And I bought some of her stuff, but then someone stole it. So someone out there has her jewelry. Oh. It's like the most it's a crazy story. Anyway,
so she's basically talking about how she's looking for a dog, and she is specifically a jiu-jitsu or shiatsu dog. Really talking around the word shih tzu.
Geri and George is like, Geri, it's shih tzu, come on. And meanwhile, another homosexual in the room, we see Kenny Ho, the stylist.
Yeah.
Fun fact about him, he designed all the 1998 Spice World tour outfits. Yeah, remember him. Let's get some more famous faces, shall we? So Geri goes around. Again, this for me is classic Geri, a bit misguided, a little bit full of herself, but ultimately really sweet.
I wrote the exact same thing. I said it's the very essence of Geri. It's well-meaning and annoying at the same time.
Yeah. So she goes around knocking on everyone's dressing room doors to wish them luck for the show.
Yeah.
Samantha Jones!
Oh,
Stephen Fry,
another homosexual. Then Desmond Llewellyn, aka Q. From James Bond.
So we meeting so many Bond people in this. It's wild.
Yeah.
She's just so sweet. And I will say just real quick about George Michael. We'll come back to this when they do go to the Battersea Dogs Home later. But every scene with Geri and George has a Creature Comforts kind of vibe to it, which is just literally like, because he's like, I think they've got really nice temperament. Well, it just depends on the temperament of the dog. You know? Real Creature Comforts bullshit. I love it.
Also, the fact that you could say, coming up later when we talk about Geri and George Michael going to Battersea Dogs Home.
Such a throwaway scene of her at Battersea Dogs Home. Such a throwaway scene.
But imagine any other, I don't know, documentary or nowadays reality show, that would be the season finale.
Yeah.
Okay, so Geri's rehearsing her song in the toilet.
She's so nervous.
She's going to be singing Happy Birthday in the style of Marilyn Monroe, unaccompanied. She is wearing a blue satin dress.
Fucking hell.
Oh,
she looks amazing.
She looks stunning.
So good. Oh, so good.
And
it's like the best she's ever looked, I think, in this moment.
I love that quiet, like, very, like, backstage, a very high-end event, and someone's... lots of people, but it's quite hush.
Yeah,
and
it's the theatre.
Putting on that satin dress. You just feel like ripples of satin, and then someone's brushing her corners. gorgeous hair. Everything's just very.
Oh yeah, they
like
stood in silence, didn't they, while they're like all quaffing her. Lovely.
So she goes out on stage and she has her big moment, and she sounds good.
Yeah. I said she looks so good, and then I wrote, I'm absurdly proud of her, considering I'm watching something that I already know is happening, that happened in 1998. I was absurdly proud of her. Then we get a wild roll call of people standing on the stage for the applause.
At the end, we've got, why don't we go back and forth? We've got Joan Collins,
Stephen Fry,
Rowan Atkinson,
Robbie Williams,
all entertaining the royals.
Yeah, really strange.
It's that, it really is that, I don't know, it feels so weird.
Yeah.
I know it still happens, but...
And also, did you notice how incredibly far away the footage of the royal box was, combined with the fact that we're watching it on YouTube? You know, I was like, I think Prince Charles is one of those people I can see in that box. So when I thought that this show couldn't get any more 90s, I was like, okay, I've just seen Robbie Williams' face, like, it's the 90s, I get it. We smash cut to Phil, the newsreader on The Big Breakfast.
Phil Gale
Phil
doing the
fucking
Big
Gale.
Breakfast News with Johnny Vaughan and Denise Van Outen. Fucking hell.
I forgot how insane The Big Breakfast was. Do you know what I forgot is how much the cameraman was clearly like handheld, and it literally like, it's like they're running at Johnny and Denise. They're sitting down talking, but the camera's like whoosh, whoosh. And basically, they're asking Phil Gale's opinion of the performance, and he's very polite and nice and just kind of says like, "Oh, you know, yeah, she did that." Mm-hmm. And then Johnny Vaughan kind of goes on a bit of a rant about it, saying like, "Oh, it's really annoying. Like she's really getting on my nerves."
And then Denise is like, "Well, that's not what you were saying before.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about?" And then we see Geri in the dairy farm cottage. I wrote eating shreddies and reading the paper.
Yeah.
And she comments directly on what Johnny said.
Yeah.
She's like, well, that Johnny
Yeah.
on Big Breakfast did this, but then Denise is like, come on, you weren't saying that before.
Yeah.
But also, we've got the newspapers. They're in, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's also worth noting that when she goes to read the newspapers, Anna's washing up again. Honestly, I made a note every time I saw Anna washing up and she was doing it again. You can hear the mugs clinking in the background.
I mean, there is something kind of amazing that, I mean, I know she must have made so much money in the Spice Girls, but after two or 3 years of being the Spice Girls, she's living in this pretty shit cottage.
Yeah, really strange environment. And it's also worth noting, even though this is not what this scene was about, that there was a washing machine in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the microwave was on top of the washing machine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. All these white goods everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of white goods.
So Geri has the Sun newspaper, and she's on the front page with Prince Charles, and she's just saying, I'm just not bad for a girl from Watford. Not bad. Meanwhile, in the background, there's a jar of Sunpat crunchy peanut butter.
Okay, so should we drive down a one-way street the wrong way to Battersea Dogs Home?
Oh my god, yes. So Geri's now driving.
Yeah.
And
Jane full-on tells her to drive the wrong way down a one-way street.
And Geri at this point says that she's now kind of annoyed with the filming.
Yeah.
It started off like she wanted a friend, and, you know, but now it's kind of annoying. She's a bit over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of creature comforts, we get a full creature comforts scene of Geri and George at Battersea Dogs Home.
Just to reference Creature Comforts, because I never saw it.
Of course.
Explain what you mean.
So Creature Comforts is this show that was on in the 90s, and basically it was like claymation animation from like the Wallace and Gromit people. And what they would do is they would go out on the street and interview like, say, 2 old ladies in the street, and they'd talk about a really mundane topic, and then they would use that audio, and it would be footage of like 2 parrots sitting in a cage, and it was like this really fun thing of like really exotic animals, or like 2 tigers in a zoo, but they're literally like, oh, I said to him, Sandra, I said he's gonna pick me up at 3:30. I use Creature Comforts as a reference all the time. I'm gonna find a clip of it for you to post, because if you haven't seen it, it's just too good.
So Geri is with George, and they're looking at dogs, and they really seem like genuine friends, the two of them.
They really do.
Which is so... I can imagine George... Well, in the same way that we love Geri, George is just like a homosexual who's just like finds Geri really funny, but also wants to support her.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've basically just said that you and I are just like George Michael. So there's a really sad-looking dog.
Yeah.
And Geri's like, that dog looks so sad. And the person working there said, well, yeah, its owner died. And then Geri just starts crying.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's a little too fragile for that kind of news, isn't she?
I find it really sad.
Yeah. And then when this is the first, we actually get to see this is the first meeting of her meeting her beloved dog, Harry.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of myself, because in my notes I wrote, is that dog called Harry? And then I was like, how is that dog's name in my brain?
Oh, 100%.
Harry the Shih Tzu.
Harry the Shih Tzu. So wait a minute, this is 1998.
Yeah.
So it probably lived to 2010
Yeah.
max.
Yeah.
I say 2010. The dog lived until 2016.
Oh, you go, Harry.
So it was at least because it's a puppy,
Yeah.
isn't it? To 18.
Yeah. Good for you,
Pretty
Harry.
good. Oh, I hope he died before like the EU referendum and the election that year.
Yeah.
Maybe that killed him.
Yeah.
Shit, political. So she gets Harry.
Yeah. So now we're going to be moving out of the dairy cottage.
This is the final scene
Yeah.
in this extravaganza.
Anna's cleaning. She's hoovering.
Yeah, I just wrote that the pine furniture won't suit the new house.
No, not
because
at all.
Jerry's standing there looking at the removal van saying, "Oh, those are all my belongings." And I'm like, "Don't
Yeah.
bring the
Leave
don't
that
bring
pine in the cottage.
Yeah, it's just. Well, where would it go?
I don't know.
Do you think maybe like there's a converted barn,
Maybe.
and she just shoves the pine cottage in there in the monastery?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that Anna gets one final washing up session in that house as they're moving out. It's like she's like, oh, we've got to wash up just those mugs that we used to have a cup of tea this morning.
She's also doing that really sweet thing of making sure she leaves it clean.
Yeah.
And at one point, Anna says, "Oh, wait a minute. What about the garden furniture?" And it's just this shot of a plastic chair that's been blown over in the wind. And Jerry's like, "It's fine,
She's like,
Mum.
leave it."
Leave it.
Yeah, and then even though I said it already, I thought it was really sweet when she was saying goodbye to the farmer and she literally said, "Thank you so much for protecting me."
I think Jerry clearly rented this place and the farmers never spoke to the press.
Yeah.
Or if anyone said, "Is Jerry living there?" they'd be like, "Don't know what you're talking about."
yeah.
I think it was that kind
Seems
of
like
thing.
really like genuinely nice person and then because it's all like I can't remember what she said, but she's like, "Oh, I gave Sandra my address, so you can come over and say hi." Like, it's like, oh, so nice.
Also, Jerry is most comfortable in a farm setting.
Yes,
it
completely.
turns out, as we now
Completely.
know in her gorgeous wherever she lives now. So
The Rainbow Woman farm.
the new house. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, she walks in and someone's painting some columns gold.
It's a really interesting mix of there are some very classic chic lovely
Yeah.
updates and then there are a few things
Yeah.
like the red dining room with a giant flat
Fuck
screen
me,
TV,
that dining room, fucking hell.
but also kind of fun and dramatic.
Then we get possibly one of the most comeback moments ever, which is Jerry's like talking about this dressing table in a bedroom, and she's saying how it's like really similar to the one in like her dollhouse as a child, and she's kind of just waffling on and on and on, and then she just turns to Molly and she just goes, what do you think, Molly? Is this your taste? And Molly just goes, no. Jerry's face is like, you can see behind like her pleasant smile. She's like, fuck me, I'm gonna have to renovate this whole place.
No,
so
she's
funny.
not thinking that. I appreciate Molly so much in this because Molly is completely like an independent
Yeah.
thinker, not won over by Jerry, intrigued by Jerry, but she's not just going to say yes to
Yeah.
everything Jerry wants.
Completely.
Also, I just have to say, my dream scenario is having a house and there are just people working on it in every corner. There's someone like finishing a column, there's someone moving something, like there's just
Well,
there's just shit getting done
Yeah.
everywhere. Love it. Okay, so there's this final moment where Jerry says that, well, she goes into one of the bedrooms and it's a spare room and Jerry's mum thinks it's really creepy.
oh yeah, she says the bed looks like a coffin.
Yeah, it's like this big old bed, and Jerry says that room it smells like her dad. She went in one day and it just really smelled of like her dad, and she said that it's like he's come to stay, which I thought was really cute.
Then we kind of end this on this kind of bizarre moment where she turns on a gramophone and kind of we see shots of the house. But did you notice one of the final shots was a really wide shot of just Anna cleaning a lamp?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, she's literally on her knees, like scrubbing this like stand of a lamp. I was like, Anna, God bless you.
Oh.
She fucking cleaned the shit out of that house.
And then one of the final shots is Jerry on that staircase with Harry the dog.
Yeah.
Now, I seem to remember Jerry, when she got into yoga, lived in this house, and she would do like head poses in that exact spot.
Right.
You know, if you had like a double staircase,
Yeah.
what meets in the middle, imagine Jerry yoga just in the middle there. Wow.
Oh, it was so good. I feel like full of gammon.
That was that was the most perfect pop culture documentary because it's incredibly well made. There's so much in it, but it's also still kind of trashy into our taste.
Yeah,
it's like that perfect bridging of all worlds.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about cereal. That was a really good moment. Really talk in depth about cereal.
We went from the UN to cereal to George Michael and Battersea Dogs Home to some Sunpat crunchy peanut butter and a plastic garden chair.
And tax evasion in France.
Tax evasion in France. Oh my God, so glamorous. So thank you so much for listening.
Yes.
Happy New Year. I know we're very well past the New Year bells, the New Year hogmanay.
Oh God.
But we are going to have our regular episodes every other week. We're
Yes.
going to have an American topic and a British topic, so get excited about that. We just thought we'd do this as a treat to begin the year.
Yeah.
As ever, get in touch on our Instagram, on our email, on the Twitter, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Bye.
You're welcome.
Samantha Jones!
You are right up my street.
Oh, you can't make me choose.
Igo by Toyota sponsors T4.
Fuck me, Lee Ryan's 13.
I remember we couldn't remember the word for table.